Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Just waiting. Hi. Can you guys hear me well? Just gonna wait for Iliza to join us. Awesome. Wow, so we're populating. It's great to see all of you. Wow, so many of you. Hi. You too, Lee. For a change. Hi, Vito. Hi, everyone. Hey, Cindy, Mary, Chris. Hi, Emily. Just waiting for Iliza to join us. If there's any questions you have, please feel free to pop them into the comment section. I'll try to loop them into our discussion tonight. It's so great to have all of you join us. Should have Iliza here soon. Wow, so many of you. Hi, everyone. Hello. I'm just gonna double check. Hi, Kanta. Oh, here we go. Here's Iliza. Hi, everyone. So great to see all of you. Hi, Iliza.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm just popping my volume up a little bit.
Okay.
It's awesome for you to join us here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've got lots of excited people already in the room.
Oh, good.
Okay, so I'll just get started with our intro here. So we just want to welcome everyone to Milton Public Library's Social Distance Book Club. Tonight's special guest, as you know, is the incomparable Iliza Shlesinger. Iliza is best known for her as an introspective comedian. She's got 5 stand-up specials to her name, some available on our Hoopla app through Milton Public Library. She's also recently co-starred in the movie Spencer Confidential, which was awesome, and just released the Iliza Shlesinger sketch show on Netflix. So this evening, she's kindly joined us to discuss her funny and revealing book, Girl Logic, The Genius and the Absurdity, which is available on our app through Collab Library. And if you haven't had a chance yet to read it, please check it out. It's fascinating read and really delves into girl logic. So here we are to talk about this. Thanks so much again, Iliza, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm wondering if you could start us off with just how girl logic as a concept came about for you.
I wanted to part of it is I didn't feel at the time, I guess the book came out when I was 35.
Mhm.
I didn't feel at the time I had I had accomplished enough to be like, here's my autobiography, you
Mhm.
know, or here's the story of how I made it, because I'm still figuring that out. And that's a big eye roll. Like, okay, you're white and 35. That's so hard. Uh, but a big part of my comedy is being introspective and reflecting on these moments in our lives, and how does being a woman play into all of this, for better or for worse. And I talk about this in the thesis. One of the weird things about being a woman is all of the contradictions, and nobody ever really talks about that. Everything in our society is like, be bold, be strong, be you. But then when you are fully realized and you do those things, you have just as many people saying, it's too much, sit down, that's intimidating. And I
Yeah.
started to realize this pattern, that's reflected in everything that you do as a woman. There's this yin and yang, and you're constantly at the mercy of whoever's judging you for whatever. And it's not as simple as just do you, girl, because when you're a woman, the way that people look at you can have detrimental, it could be positive effects on everything. She seems to X, Y, and Z, therefore I won't do this. I will treat her this way. I could hurt her. I could, and we're so vulnerable as women, as strong as we try to be. So I just wanted to write a book sort of unearthing that.
Yeah.
And shedding light on the fact that we're constantly, because we're in charge of so much, not just our bodies, but societal perceptions and children and our female reproductive organs and the way that we're perceived. We're constantly trying to balance what works for us while taking in all this input. And it is a complex way of thinking that can drive you crazy if you let it.
And I love how you talk about, like, it's about everything. It's about, should I eat this muffin today? It gets down to that simple, tiny moment. And
Yeah.
and it's hard to explain. And I want to get into the part where you talk about women being labeled crazy a little later, but I want to
Sure.
get a sense of, you talk about what you're saying right there is how often women's goals and desires are always in conflict with one another. And you take us through this journey of change from your 20s into your 30s. I'm personally going to be 40 this year. And I've seen that
Congrats.
change, that arc. Yay, thanks. So for you, taking that arc and going through those changes, especially in the field you're in, and then going from being single to being married, and starting in the trenches, how is your girl logic kind of grown with you and changed?
Well, I can tell you that it's not that you care less. We have this big fetishization in girl culture of like not giving a fuck. And that's insane. What you give a fuck about changes. I'm so sorry. I wasn't supposed to curse.
Okay.
Oh, it's a library thing. No.
I'm just like,
What you give an F about, it changes. And this is not to say that the things that mattered to you at a certain age were trivial or stupid. I mean, some of them were, but your priorities change. Where you put your energy changes. And your girl logic, at a certain point, you start to recognize these patterns, and you really do start to realize, like, nobody cares what kind of black shoes I wear. And there is this freedom in realizing nobody cares, not in a nihilistic way, but in I don't need to be pulling my hair out because of this. And it's advice that I happily give, but you're not always ready to hear it, because when you're 25, you're like, this relationship matters. And then you look back and you're like, no, it didn't. So it's just this, for every age, every couple of years, this ever evolving sense of your own priorities. And it's so funny because the older I get, the more I want to give advice, but you're not ready to hear advice from someone older almost ever, especially when you're younger. Like, whatever I say now, it's like, whatever, like, you don't get it. Like, this guy is and then 5 years later, you're like, I should have listened.
Yeah.
So I'm always just in awe of aging, how horrific it can be, but also the life lessons that you cannot absorb until you age.
So
and there's so many still to learn. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I completely agree. I think even thinking back to when I was 28, the way I thought about different things and what I really cared about and what mattered to me all the time has really, really changed. That's with age. That's with probably getting married, probably having a kid as well. It's like, I don't have the time I don't have the time to think about this other stuff, you know, and
it,
it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
it doesn't matter. And there are things that do matter. And even though they seem trivial, and I guess at the end of it, like whatever is important to one woman, like we should be okay with that. But it's funny now that I've been married, and you know, this is never, anything that I say is never intended to like make someone who isn't married feel bad. Like these are just,
Right.
you know, that's a big bad move that women make a lot of the times. But when you are married, the energy that you put into finding a mate and to looking perfect and going out, all of a sudden that energy is just there and you don't need to use it on that. So you have this energy to do other things. And, you know, there's always this trope about like letting yourself go. Ideally, you wouldn't do that, but it's less about letting yourself go and more like you're not on the prowl as much.
Right.
So being sexy and like certain things that we spend our lives training to do, your objective being, and people can say this isn't the truth, but the objective is to find that mate eventually for a lot of people. And then you get one and it's like, yeah, I guess my priority now is like not looking hot in bike shorts. Like, I guess I don't have to do contouring
right now.
right. Because it shifts somewhere else. And it's been interesting to me being married. Like the things that I don't know. It's not about letting yourself go, but it is like the things that were a priority before. And now I'm like, yeah, maybe the pants don't fit. What are you going to do? Yeah. I tried. I work out. I tried.
You do. You're very fit. So another aspect of what you were talking about here is, you know, that idea of you want to make yourself happy, but you're working so hard and making sure everyone else around you is happy. And there's this constant push and pull and you're trying to, I don't like the word balance, but you're always trying to find that, like, where's the center going to happen for me?
Yeah.
So that gets into, I'm just wondering, you've probably experienced this. I know I've experienced this. Audience, let us know if you've experienced this perfectionist loop. Like, I gotta be this for this person. I gotta be this. And it's just this ongoing, you're just exhausted all the time. And I feel like that happens a lot in that late 20s, early 30s. You're still trying to figure out where you're meant to be, I suppose. I don't know if you experienced that personally.
I guess I didn't, but I also suffer from having too much self-esteem, and it's not always warranted. Just the idea that, like, especially as a comic, like, I'm not a narcissist, but you have to have narcissistic qualities. So being a stand-up, you're like, of course I'm enough. Why isn't everybody into this? And also, and maybe this was from being raised well and having good influences, but being imbued with the notion, like, I'm enough. And if a guy ever challenged me on that, I'd be like, you know, we're done. And I think that all of that comes from knowing your worth, and you're going to make so many dumb choices. Like, I was talking to a friend the other day about, like, we should be dead. Like, all of the mistakes we made, really bad one, like, it's a wonder. But having that inherent self-worth, and I'm not talking about like, a guy didn't text you back, but, you know, I get a lot of questions on my podcast about guys and, oh, I don't like the way he's treating me. You teach people how to treat you. And when you have a girl who's always in these shitty relationships, the common denominator is you. And eventually you have to look at yourself. People seek out that energy that you put out there. And I've never, for as much as I talk about men and women, I've never dated a guy who made me feel less than, because I wouldn't stick around for that.
Right.
You know, and that comes with time and self-respect and stuff like that. And there's all different ways to go about it. But when you're talking about balance, I guess also just knowing whatever you're doing is enough, and anybody that has a problem with it isn't your friend.
Yeah,
and especially as we get older, like, you don't have, if you have kids, like, you don't have time to be on the phone with your friends the way that you once did, or check in for drinks. And a real friend understands your limits, and like water, they kind of form around that. And that's why we lose friends as we get older, because you're probably more friends with moms than you were before. Like, it's all about, like, who can I fit in my free time?
I was the last one to have a kid. So yes.
Yeah.
I before we step into kind of talking about friendships, well, we're already talking about friendships actually. Do you think, like, I have a versatile group of friends. I've got friends who are in their late 20s. I got friends who are in their 60s. Do you think that helps our girl logic from spinning out? Because you talk about that, like,
totally
competition factor that we have, but I think there's something good about having a balance of friends that kind of the wise ones and the ones that are still out there partying.
I mean, I'm a big fan, like academically and in entertainment. Like I always try to find people who are like better than me. I love being surrounded by people who do things that I don't do and do it better than me. Because it takes the competition out of it. Because you're not having to prove that you belong because that person has no context. Like if I'm in a room of other comedians or other comedy writers, there's always that like kind of a pissing contest thing. But if I'm in a room with a bunch of female CEO or like bankers, then I could just be me. And that's just being honest about it. And so being friends with women who are older is always great because they've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And they can give you some sage wisdom. And being friends with people who are younger is great because you need to know like what eyeshadow palette is in. So
I loved the part where you're talking about like texting because I didn't have a phone till I was like 28. I had like a cell phone. So
yeah.
when you're talking about, I understood it in a sense, but I'm like, I never experienced that. I don't know about this. But we've got a really good question here.
Okay.
Ross611, how do you cope with the loss of a lifelong friend as an adult?
Like they died or you got rid of them?
I'm thinking like growing apart.
Okay, they didn't die.
Growing apart. There was a better explanation than growing apart. Sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes it's maybe I wonder if the person has something else going on in their life
But that's growing apart.
That's growing apart. Yeah.
Like here's the other thing, because I actually not just went through this, but someone circled back about this in my life. You have to we are told that we're supposed to like hold on to everyone forever. And like, just because by the way, the friends that you have, I'm actually writing a script about this right now, are not because you did online dating and you found the best match. Your best friend is your best friend because she sat next to you in math class. Mm-hmm. Your boyfriend is your boyfriend because he works next to you, or he was also the homecoming king, or whatever. We are beholden to our circumstances, except for in dating where you can actually take a survey and weigh people up. But your friends are there because that's who was there.
Yeah.
For the most part, you're not meant to hold on to these people forever. Some you do, some you don't. I never mourn it, especially if it probably is just growing apart. That's what it is. You've outgrown it. Do you hold on to a onesie at 20 that you outgrew at 3? No, it's uncomfortable.
I find it's you have a very healthy perspective to that, and I really appreciate it because it took me a long time to get there. I'm there now, but I would say even within the past 5 years, I was still mourning a friendship from my early 20s that I didn't understand why it went away. And now I realize it was never about me, or it's not about you. It's this person their life has gone another direction, and
or it is about you,
or it is.
They dropped you because you were like a real jerk about something, which is also, I kind of, if I'm being honest, I always have these like big holiday parties, and I noticed, every year I'd invite the same people and the same people come, and I'd always have these big parties. And I noticed after a couple of years, there were some people I would invite that never came. And I just sort of a couple of years ago, not because they like me or don't, but like, I just wasn't a priority. And I was like, we're done inviting you. Right. And I became more okay with like rather have a group of people that I love versus a huge group of people that it's like whatever. For everybody that you aren't that cool with, there's somebody who's not that cool with you. And sometimes there's like a big catalyst, or sometimes it's like, I just don't have the time. It seldom is a big thing, but I think that also comes back to women having difficulty with drawing boundaries.
Yeah.
And if friends aren't willing to treat you the way you want to be treated, that's not your friend.
Yeah.
Only women have an issue with this. Men never write in about that. Although I think that was a dude that just wrote in.
I couldn't tell.
We don't see gender here at the Milton Public Library.
I know in your podcast, Ask Iliza Anything, if anyone is interested, you get a lot of those kinds of questions as well. But I like the idea, like your girl logic goes into freak out mode, because it's like, what is it about me that this person doesn't want to come around? Yeah.
And I think it does that for a lot of things, not just friends, but like, oh, somebody sent a text weird, and I have found I am not a relaxed person. I am not a chill person. No one's ever said that I'm like cool, but maybe it's because of this quarantine, but just finding space and grace in interactions and giving people a chance to, because like I'm very fast. And when people aren't fast, I'm like, oh my God, did I bother them? Did I offend them? And the truth is no, they just weren't getting back as fast. And just giving yourself a moment to be like, breathe. You didn't do anything wrong.
I agree. I have friends I've been friends with for now it's 20 years. and we're extremely close, but especially in this quarantine, I was just talking to my husband the other day. I said, oh, you would think we would be doing so much more and like connecting more with people, but everyone has their stuff. They're trying to teach their kids from home while working their full-time job and X, Y, Z. So you're right. I like the idea of I think it's important to remember that grace. I think this still fits into friendship, and I really like, you've gone through this recently. And they're asking about, is it okay to not have a wedding party? My opinion on this is it's your wedding, so make your decision. I had 5 people at my wedding. Did not have a wedding party. And so what is your take on that?
It's whatever you want to do. If you want to run naked on a beach and drink tequila straight from the bottle, you want to have a giant wedding at a cathedral and like, you know, you want to, whatever. I was going to say have the men and women not touch, but I was like, that's Orthodox Judaism. Totally different, not fun party. It's whatever you want to do. And it's so much easier said than done because a lot of people, their parents are paying for their wedding or you're beholden to someone else. But at the end of the day, like what you will remember from that day is how good you felt seeing a few friends you cared about. And at the end, you're married, which is the most important reason we're doing this. So you still get the best part. It's okay to do whatever you want to do. It really is. No, by the way, nobody cares. Like
and
there's
if
that
someone's
quote,
mad at you, they're really not a good friend.
no, unless it's your mom, in which case that's fair. But like there's that quote about like nobody cares if you go to the party. Nobody cares if you don't have a wedding. Like people are pumped to not have to drive to Santa Barbara. So it's okay.
And spend
okay.
tons of money. So I'm just going to pivot a little bit here.
You
touch a lot about that idea of women being labeled crazy because they seem frazzled because they're always, and this comes back to girl logic in and of itself. They always seem frazzled because they just can't make up their mind about something. I'm just trying to review my question here.
Yeah, no worries.
How does explaining girl logic offer a different way of thinking about how we review our emotions or having too many thoughts about a simple decision instead of being labeled crazy?
Well, women are going to get labeled crazy regardless, but the people that are labeling you crazy, and I'm very pro man, like I'm not a anti-man thing, but it is a thing that men do to diminish a woman's opinion. There are crazy girls out there. I would wager there's more crazy men, but okay. There are crazy people out there. We do it to write off a woman. When a woman doesn't fit into a box or didn't do what we want, well, she's crazy. You know, we always think of the guy that like, officer, she's crazy. And it's like, well, like, how do we discredit that? And that's trickled down to women calling each other crazy. Yeah. And there are crazy, horrible people out there. But it's all in an effort to sort of gain our own footing. And forgetting people calling you crazy, a thing that I, several years ago, kind of came into contact with in my soul was just asking myself, like, what do I want? What do I want? Think of all the times that you've been like, I don't want to go out, but I will. I don't want to, I don't want to do this, but I will. And usually it's because you want to do what your friends want to do or what a guy wants to do. Like in this moment, like, what do I want? And the answer is, I want to eat something and go to bed. And that's what you should always do. Yes, there are times where it's like, gut it out, you know? Yeah. But you should always, and those are the most powerful women. And that's what men do. I've typically, and all my life, it's always been guys like, no, I got to go. I got to be out. And girls are we're used to having our boundaries pushed. So we're always like, okay, I could stay. Okay, I guess I could do it. It's sexy when a girl's like, no, here's what I got to do. I got to go eat. I got to go to bed. I want to do this for work, you know? And you'll always feel so much better having done that, but always tapping into what is it that I need? Not from this person, but for myself. What can I do for myself? Sometimes what you need is to watch Bosch for 6 hours and not do any of your writing. Fair. I guarantee if you do that, you'll be so much better the next day. Hypothetically, Bosch.
I haven't watched it yet, but I saw someone make a comment the other day on one of your posts, and I thought, check that out. But it's not, I don't know. I remember like it was sort of my early 30s where I just thought, why do I say yes to everything? And then when I started to first say, well, you know what, today it doesn't work for me, I got a little pushback, but those friends are still with me. And, you know, I still have many funny moments where it would be 9:30. I'd gone out with some coworkers. I said, I'm tired. I'm going home. And you have to be, you're so right. If you're not true to yourself, you're going to spiral and not be happy. That's really,
it's something also, I just want to say this. I had a friend, I guess we're not friends anymore, and that's because I drew like a boundary or whatever. But I remember her saying to me, oh, what was it? She would always Irish goodbye. And it's like a cute move if you're like the hot girl and you're like, later, like, where'd you go? But she was leaving like big events in my life. And I'd be like, why are you just left? And she was like, I don't want anyone to like give me crap for leaving. And I was like, well, I've never given you crap for leaving, but also we're in our mid-30s. Like, when was the last time somebody actually cared that you had too many drinks and went home? So I was like, oh my God, you're living in like this party mode from your 20s. The fact that you care that people would even care is insane. So also, like, don't be so self-centered. Nobody cares. Like, say goodbye and leave. And it's actually pathetic if someone's like, stay for another drink. And you're like, what do you, go get drunk alone.
yeah.
Or I always keep making it about bars, but I do believe that's the cradle of civilization. So yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
So this is from one of our staff members had this great question, and they're asking about what is your creation process like for your jokes versus writing this book or writing a script or your new sketch show? Like, does it differ for you?
Yeah, it'd be super weird if it didn't. Well, the stand-up writing, I do it all on stage. And I'll like have a thought and I'll just like jot it down in my phone, but then I'll get on stage and I'll just talk it out, and you kind of just build on that. And so the work for me is very much done with a live audience, which is why this quarantine is so awful, among other reasons. And people like dying, but artistically. So it's very much done on stage in the moment. That's why when people are like, I write so much, I'm like, if you don't, that's like saying I read a lot of books about weight training. I'm like, if you're not lifting the weights, you're not building muscle.
Yeah.
The sketch show, I came in with ideas. I had 3 other writers, so the 4 of us worked together. So it's much more collaborative. Stand-up is a solo sport. Sketch is a team sport. And then the book was, I had this idea, and it's a lot of going back and forth with my editor, like shaping, reshaping, her asking questions, me filling it. So me bouncing it off. This wasn't, I think you should always have someone, not necessarily that you're collaborating with, but someone that's, you're bouncing it off so you can not sound like an idiot.
Yes.
And we took out stuff in the book, stuff that was like too angry or kind of got off topic, because on stand-up, I could take the audience wherever and they'll go. You don't have to have any thesis formed. But with the book, you do. The thesis, you have to refer back to it. It's hard. Writing papers was never my thing. So that's it. It's a different type of process, but I've always found that actually just writing stuff out, even if I'm processing something bad that happened or just as an exercise, just actually sitting there and writing just to see what comes out. I've written whole scenes, whole half of scripts that I just like throw away because like you just had to get it out, So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of writers talk about it. That's helpful. I'm sure for a lot of people who are interested in giving it a shot.
Just start writing. Just write and just see where it goes.
So we're heading into the last maybe 5-ish minutes of what we've got here. So I really am interested in you touched on it, and I wanted to ask you, how is Girl Logic coming up during socialization, and what are you doing about it? In that, we're reconnecting with ourselves, but for someone, a lot of us are working from home. Some of us have to go into work still. For yourself, you've had to reschedule a lot of your tour. And so how have you found outlets during social isolation?
Well, I mean, I live with my husband. I live with a big monkey. He's over there.
Your dog's
I live with my husband, my dog. So, that's different. My heart goes out to people who are totally quarantined alone. Like, that's a whole other thing that no human should have to really go through. Just feeling that isolated. But I don't know if this applies to the Girl Logic. I mean, it does speak to the fact that women are always having to consider past, present, and future. And so taking that with me into this, there were all these articles written at the onset of this about how, You don't have to be productive. You don't have to be anxious about not being productive. You don't have to take this time to write the next great novel. You can just be. And I was like, you do that. I'll be over here and swing on people. And so it's just the kind of person I am. I put all my energy into writing show outlines, finishing up some screenplays, like all the things that I kind of don't have the mental energy for when I'm doing stand-up, because you're just so tired because I do so much of it. And so I put all that energy into that. And if you consider past, present, and future, I'm like, how was I perceived when I pitched to these producers last time? What didn't they like about what I wrote? Doing the work so that I don't make those mistakes again. I don't get the same rejections. And then being prepared for when this all does open up, having that head start. And so I guess there's that. And and also realizing not everybody's thinking about you and they're not. People aren't thinking about you as bad as you would imagine. And usually they're just not thinking about you, which is where agents come in. But in terms of socialization, I've really enjoyed the positive response I get on Instagram and connecting with fans that way.
Yeah.
And wanting to just put positive things out there. Because I think we do that when we don't feel so good. So you put something positive out there and then you're like, ooh, a positive nugget back. That felt so good.
Your relationship with your fans is amazing. And I have to say, as a fan, I really appreciate when I asked you to do this social distance book club with us, you replied within 20 minutes to me, which was incredible. And it was a big yes. And
it's sad. It's sad that I reply that quickly to all my DMs, but thank you.
It's not, it's refreshing and it's you, and we really appreciate it. And I wanted to mention you've been doing this Don't Panic Pantry with your husband, which has been so fun to watch every day. We get that.
Thank you.
It seems like you get a little bit of an outlet to do some of your comedy, but also we see that nice connection of your own life that you have going on at home and with your husband and with your new dog. So it's great watching you, and we're so grateful you joined us here today. Thank you so much for joining us for this social distance book club here tonight. It's been great speaking with you about Girl Logic, Genius, and the Absurdity, and other things.
Enjoy it on Audible.
Yes,
if you don't read it.
There's Audible, and then for people who belong to the Milton Public Library, we have it available on Cloud Library. And again, some of Iliza's previous shows and her documentary is available on Hoopla. Next week we'll be joined by Irene Go, who is the food content editor of Chalet Magazine for Social Distance Book Club. And don't forget to catch Iliza on Don't Panic Pantry, I guess happening in a half hour.
Yeah, half hour live on my Instagram and Facebook.
Iliza S.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you everyone for joining.
See you at a show. Bye, you guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.